to the sweat. We hail from DraftKings. That much should kind of be obvious. He's Brendan. I'm Jessie. And tonight we have fantasy experts here to help you build winning lineups. Some people, maybe they would call us heroes. Just another day for us at the office, though.
I just left my cape at home for today. Lots to get to, but we'll start with the latest on the NFL free agency front. Say hello to DK Live's Steve Buchanan and Reed Fowler. You guys are here for some NFL spin move.
Putting a fantasy spin on the biggest NFL news. And how about we start with the massive news that OBJ is headed to Cleveland. Steve, I can't really believe I'm saying this, but are the Browns now a top fantasy offense?
Of course! You can't say they're anything less. I mean, they're adding a player that has over 1,000 receiving yards in 4 of his 5 seasons in the NFL, 44 touchdowns combined. I mean, adding that with Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry's frustrating. I like to compare him to Spirit Airlines. It always sounds like a good idea. But then when you get on the airlines, you made a horrible mistake and you'll never do it again. I mean, look, but Landry should improve vastly with Beckahm on the field. I mean, it should be more opportunities for all of these guys to feast on these targets here. And then let's not forget about David Njoku still on this team. We haven't really seen the breakout that he's capable of. Kareem Hunt is here as well if he can play. I mean, man, this is just one stellar offense from top to bottom that doesn't have really any question marks at all. So, yeah, the Browns are absolutely stellar contenders for the upcoming, seasons to come from now.
Reed, the Browns are a stellar offense. I mean, just take it away.
Yeah, I mean, agreeing with Steve is like riding at Spirit Airlines. Never a good idea. But no, I'm just kidding. I agree with him 100%. I mean, he forgot to mention Nick Chubb, right? Nick Chubb is still there.
No.
He's one of the great spots, the highlights, along with Baker, obviously, as a rookie quarterback with Cleveland. And yeah, you got to think of this offense as high powered right now, right? Just on paper with the quote unquote star power that they have. Jarvis was never number one. Right, we saw that last year. He's not a number one receiver. Odell Beckham is. He clearly made that Giants team and Eli better. He's going to make the Cleveland Browns better. And you just look at in terms of where their ranks in DVOA, the Browns will probably have the best chance, if not the chance, to increase highest in terms of their ranking. You still have New Orleans, right? You still have the Rams. You still have these top offenses, Kansas City. But these guys can contend for like the number 5th or 6th spot just based on their names. And how they're going to work together. A lot of mouths to feed, but one of the best offenses for sure on paper.
All right, after sitting out last year with the Steelers, Le'Veon Bell is headed to the New York Jets. Reed, that a good fit, and could he benefit from being on the Jets from having Bell in the backfield? Will the Jets benefit?
Well, yeah, I got you, buddy. Of course. I mean, the Jets did not have a good running back tandem. We wanted like the Crowells to do well there. But they tried Trent Cannon. That didn't really work out. Sam Darnold is a quarterback that needs someone like Lev Bell. So obviously Darnold is going to increase, right? The Jets are going to, obviously their offense is going to increase. But I'm looking at Quincy Enunwa as well as someone that could really benefit from him, from his appearance there with the Jets. Just because when you look at Darnold's average depth of target or completed air yards low, right? It's about 6.5. And you just look at what he was able to do, his depth of target, just his pass play completion really was to Enunwa first 4 weeks. I mean, he targeted him, 9.5 times in the first 4 weeks. So he clearly likes Enunwa. I think that increases, especially when you have Lev Bell, you have to account for what he's able to do in the pass and run game. So I really like Quincy Enunwa to increase. Robbie Anderson, clearly, obviously, if he doesn't get, double covered, if doesn't get injured, he has a chance, but I like Enunwa a little bit better than Anderson.
Steve, your take on Bell's fantasy value, and then how about how it benefits Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is just an excellent landing spot for him. He's going to be that 3-down workhorse for them. They never really had. I mean, sure, Powell, Cannon, whatever, frauds, whatever. But, we all know that he excels in the passing game, and that gives the Jets, a real dual threat that they never really had before. But look, the Jets really have to improve that offensive line. I know they got Assembly from the Raiders. That's obviously going to help them. But, Bell's going to be behind an offensive line that's not going to be like Pittsburgh. They have a lot to work to do in that realm there. But yeah, like Reed said, Quincy Enunwa, I think he's a sneaky beneficiary from this deal here. I think it really kind of opens up things for him. Obviously, Robbie Anderson is who he is. He was productive without Bell already, but I think Enunwa is going to be a really sneaky one to target here in the upcoming seasons because I think this opens up a lot for him. But yeah, what a great landing spot for the Jets. I mean, look, they finally did something for a change. Let's give them a round of applause for that.
All right, Steve, the Chiefs are expected to trade Dee Ford to the 49ers. Defense was a big problem for Kansas City. Now they're without their best player. Plus, Justin Houston is also gone. So from a fantasy sense, could this mean more time on the field for that prolific Chiefs offense? And we found out just a little while ago that Eric Berry has also been released. He was injured a lot, but still pretty good at defense.
Yeah, it's crazy on paper. You're trying to figure out what they're doing, but for the long term, it makes a lot of sense. Look, the Chiefs are moving to a 4-3 front, and they just felt like that, Ford wasn't going to fit in that mix for him. So instead of spending all this money for him and not maybe being able to participate in that to what they'd want, it makes sense to move him. So they need that cap space, and they move him along there. And look, the Chiefs offense, we've seen what they can do. Obviously, their defense wasn't great last year, so what the heck? Let's make it even worse. Just keep the offense on the field if we can. But from a long-term perspective, the Chiefs want to lock up all of these guys. They want to lock up Tyreek Hill. They want to lock up Patrick Mahomes. And you're not going to do it with all these guys on defense taking up all that cap space. So while it might be a little ugly for the next couple of years, long-term, this is the moves the Chiefs had to make if they want to get those guys. So, yeah, that offense is going to be on the field as much as they can. We've seen how well they can do on the field. So, yeah, it's going to be ugly at first, but, I think it's the right move.
Reed, just a lot of reps out there for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, they're 26th in time of possession, so I think that increases. They're actually number 10th and have been around that in terms of pass play percentage over the last 3 years, kind of in that mid-teens, which I found a little surprising because we just see them, they always pass the ball. But you have Kareem Hunt, obviously you're going to run the ball with him at that moment. Damian Williams is not necessarily, to me right now, a true number one. But just on the 49ers alone, I think that's a great signing with D Ford. I mean, they've missed some of their defensive draft picks. Obviously, Reuben Foster, DeForest Buckner has been good, but Solomon Thomas hasn't really panned out. So I like that for the 49ers, getting that edge pass rusher. They definitely need that. But going back to the Chiefs, right, time possession, they're 26th. So I think that does increase. I think we see them pass a lot more, especially without that true number one running back. So, yeah, I think that increases, and there's more opportunity for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, more opportunities for Travis Kelce, and that's really where you look at season-long in fantasy. I mean, drafting some of these tight ends like Ertz and Kelce early is probably going to be a preferred strategy just because now with Patrick Mahomes being one of the best in the league, the reigning MVP, and now with their defense just kind of falling apart. I know they signed Honey Badger for an expensive deal. This is still a defense that needs a lot of help.
All right, another team in the AFC making moves today. Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas are now Ravens. Let's go to Steve here. We'll go back to Reed. Reed, where does this move put Baltimore in the AFC? Both moves.
I mean, you kind of like with this move in terms of what they're able to do, but you still have to rest a lot of confidence on Lamar Jackson, right? We saw with Gus Edwards, Alex Collins. It was trying to figure out what you're able to do on offense. And I think with this move with Earl Thomas, clearly Eric Weddle, just not panning out. You have a guy in Earl Thomas that quietly Baltimore made this free agent signing very nicely. So I do like that. Mark Ingram, he's always been Mark Ingram. Kind of, I mean, Steve used this term fraud, and is he a fraud? Not really, but he's a guy that on a possession by possession could get you those 4 to 5 yards. But it really rests on Lamar Jackson and where this offense is going to go. He has to be able to stay in the pocket. He has to be able to complete passes. It's not going to be Mark Ingram, the reason why they're winning. It's going to be Lamar Jackson. So I'm still waiting to see what Lamar Jackson does. The Mark Ingram signing doesn't necessarily move the needle for me for Baltimore.
Steve, Cleveland is adding, Pittsburgh is losing. So never mind just the AFC, but the division itself. Where do you look at Baltimore now in the AFC?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, Thomas is nice. I mean, that's definitely a boost to any team, no matter who you are. But, Ingram doesn't really move the needle for me. I mean, they had so many running backs going with that team last season. It was hard to even keep up with who was going on out there. But, at the end of the day, it's just going to be Jackson. He's going to be the guy that's going to be moving the ball. He's going to take all of his rushes like he always does. Ingram is nice to have. They'll have that power back at the goal line. They can go and punch in some touchdowns and all. But, it's okay. I think, like I said, I think Thomas is the biggest move here out of the two of them. Ingram, let's see how he does in that number one role. He always was a compliment to Kamara. He's going to be that number one in Baltimore. So it's nice. It's a good addition, but it's not going to put him over the top.
Well, they're clearly running. They're going to run the ball. I mean, John Brown's gone, right? I mean, they're going to run the ball a ton. So maybe just on sheer volume, but Ingram has never been a volume guy.
Poor Willie Snead. Got to get him out of there.
Okay, guys, that's all the time we have for gossiping about NFL trades. Got to get to NBA price check, but that's after we let Kaufman gossip with Mike Francesa about the Odell trade.
Well, it's usually a Francesa Friday. Instead, this is Hump Day with Francesa. I guess read into that what you will. Adam Kaufman with Mike Francesa. He's the host of Mike's On WFAN in New York. I get to host this segment. So, Mike, I almost texted you when I saw Odell Beckham Jr. was traded to the Browns because the Giants are getting killed for this move, but I bet you love it.
Well, it's no secret I have not been a fan of Beckham's, and Beckham and I have had an adversarial relationship. And I've criticized the Giants going back to Coffield for how they've handled Beckham. I thought they handled him badly from his first antics back in the Carolina game where he should have been reprimanded right then and there. The Giants allowed him to completely destroy any discipline on that team. They became completely dysfunctional. They took on his personality, which was, in my mind, a losing personality. And they lost while he was here. So, listen, the Giants can be blamed for a lot of things. Number one, they never should have given him a contract. They felt compelled to give him a contract, and then came the last straw. Then came stuff that they said, you know what, enough's enough. And I think, listen, Gettleman's getting guilty, but remember, people got to be smarter than that. You don't make moves like this without ownership's blessing. When you trade players of this magnitude, when you're moving contracts, when you're taking $16 million in dead money, ownership is on board. I mean, that's just the way it goes. This comes down from the top, and they had enough. They had had enough. And my tweet last night was to the Giants, welcome back. To me, they have been down the wrong road since the day he got here. It shows. They were 31-50 in his time here. Now, he didn't play all those games, but I mentioned 31-50 for two very distinct reasons. Number one, if you're going to be really good, you got to play. You got to be available. That's part of being great, is being able to play. He missed a lot of games. Number two, he created a losing atmosphere. He helped create an undisciplined, losing atmosphere. There was no character, no toughness, and that's why the Giants were 31-50, never won a playoff game in his stay. And now maybe the Giants can get back to being the Giants again, because they were sure not the Giants when he was here.
All right, 6-game basketball slate tonight. Who better to pick the brains of than the Action Network's Matt LaMarca and RotoWire's Alex Barutha? Let's check prices with these two, Jesse. NBA price check means we ask these guys which players will return value.
Okay, Matt, there are 4 guards listed at over 9,000 on this slate. Number 1, James Harden, 11-2, home versus the Warriors. Number 2, Russell Westbrook, 11K in OKC versus the Nets. 3, Bradley Beal, he's a little bit cheaper here, 9,800, home against the Magic. And 4, Steph Curry, 9,300 against Harden's Rockets. So, hold on, let me catch my breath.
Yeah,
which
sorry, that was a lot.
high-price guard is going to be worth the cash here?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer here is Steph Curry. If you look at sort of what the members of the Warriors have done with Durant out of the off the court since DeMarcus Cousins joined the rotation, Curry has seen the largest usage bump on the team at 6.5%. He scored 51.5 DraftKings points in his first game without Durant this season. He averaged right around 51.5 DraftKings points per game. With Durant out of the lineup last season. So he's just too cheap at 9,300. I think that he is, an elite option in all formats. That said, I do think that James Harden is also a really strong play at 11-2. And I think that he's going to be under-owned tonight because of Curry. If you look, Harden has had some of his best games statistically against the Warriors in the regular season over the past 2 seasons. His price has come down a bit, and he's still commanding a ridiculous usage rate. He's averaging over 42% usage rate over his past 10 games. So I think that he might honestly be the more appealing option for me in tournaments, but it's hard to envision a scenario where Steph Curry doesn't return value at his current salary.
Alex, do you think Steph Curry is the obvious choice here, or do you like the idea Matt has about the low ownership with Harden over here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as much as Harden can be overlooked, he might get overlooked in this matchup because people are going to be so focused on Curry. But, Curry's still my pick. I'm just going to end up echoing a ton of the things he said. We only have 1 game so far this year with Durant off the court, so we don't have a ton of data as far as when, Durant is actually absent, what happens. But we do have, obviously, the on-off court data. And what I've seen when looking at that is just Steph Curry and DeMarcus Cousins average about 50 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. So yeah, I mean, Curry becomes an obvious option at his relatively low price tag.
All right, let's go to forwards. The top three most expensive have sort of a wide range of salaries. Paul George is the highest at $9,600. Blake Griffin, $1,500 cheaper, as the Pistons are in South Beach taking on the Heat. And then finally, Atlanta's John Collins rounds out that trio at $7,600 a matchup with the Grizz. How are you spending your money with these forwards? Alex first.
I mean, I do like the upside of John Collins and Blake Griffin in general, but John Collins is going to be paced down a ton. The Grizzlies are, I think, bottom 3 in pace in this Detroit-Miami matchup for Blake Griffin. It's going to be one of the lowest expected totals of the night, so that doesn't look particularly great. Plus, the game is in Miami, so, South Beach effect there. Overall, I do like Paul George in this matchup because in general, I think he has the highest upside, but I think he's in the best spot here, against a Brooklyn Nets team that's good in their own right, but does have a tendency to sacrifice a lot of points in general, gives up a lot of extra possessions. Overall, I'm just going with Paul George, and I feel the best and most confident about that.
All right, Alex believes in Paul George. Matt LaMarca, Blake Griffin, or John Collins? They have a case?
Yeah, I kind of like Collins as well. I think his price is really favorable on DraftKings tonight, but it's got to be PG. I mean, if you look, he's at $9,600. That's one of the lowest price tags we've seen for him in a while. His price has come down by $1,100 over the past month, which makes him a really nice buy low target in a great matchup against the Nets. The Thunder have the highest implied team total on the slate at 120 points. And really, frankly, it's not even very close with, the second highest implied team total. So George is just playing a tremendous amount of minutes right now. He's projected for basically 39 in our Fantasy Labs NBA models. So just a lot to like about George. I think it's a nice opportunity to buy a really good player at a little bit of a discount.
All right, guys, two-horse race when it comes to pricey centers. Detroit's Andre Drummond, $9,400, and Orlando's Nikola Vucevic, he's $9,200. Matt, if you're spending big bucks for a big guy, where's the money flowing?
Yeah, I love Drummond, but it's got to be Vucci main today. Got to be Vucevic. Just a tremendous matchup versus the Wizards. I mean, they're 27th in defensive efficiency and 29th in team rebound rate, and just have been getting crushed by centers all season. $9,200 is a fair price for Vucevic. He's another guy who's seen a price decrease over the past month of $800. So I think, again, it's another opportunity to buy low on a really good player in a great matchup.
Alex, do you agree? Do you want to go with Drummond?
Or Vucevic?
I agree. I mean, I worry about Drummond. Like I mentioned the pace of the game before, but also maybe this is the game that Eric Spoelstra decides to give Hassan Whiteside more than 15 minutes. I mean, it's the perfect opportunity to do so. So Drummond could be going up against more of a wall than the Washington Wizards had, going up against Vucevic. And, the Wizards have been playing Bobby Portis a ton at center, and, Thomas Bryant still gets minutes, but neither of those guys are that imposing of a front line. And so I think Vucevic in general is just in a really good spot to take advantage of that.
LaMarca, Vucci main, that is terrific.
Yeah,
I might steal that one. All right, we've discussed...
Yeah, free Vucci.
Yeah.
We've discussed a lot of spending at all positions, guard, forward, center, so need some avenues here to save. There are a number of options at guard in the 4K range. DeLon Wright of Memphis, $4,600. Joe Harris of the Nets, $4,500. Orlando's DJ Augustine, $4,300. And Atlanta's Kevin Huerter at $4,200. Any of these guys interest you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think DeLon Wright and DJ Augustine are the most interesting to me. I'm going to lean DJ Augustine just because the Magic are so reliant on him as a player, as a point guard, to play 30 minutes and kind of stabilize the team in general. And he's a guy who's a great three-point shooter himself, though certainly not the best three-point shooter of the group, but he could get hot. He could get you 30 DraftKings points. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So overall, yeah, the pace of the game, the whole situation, I prefer DJ Augustine out of all these guys.
Matt, where are you going out of this quartet?
Yeah, Alex hit it right on the head. It's DJ Augustine and DeLon Wright for me, but I also give a slight edge to Augustine. Isaiah Briscoe, who's been playing backup point guard for the Magic, just underwent knee surgery. He's likely done for the season. That could be a pretty significant injury for Augustine. If you look in his last game, he hit 31 and a half minutes. That's more than he's played in any game over the past month. So if he sees a few extra minutes with Briscoe out of the lineup, I think he's got big upside at 4,300, especially considering, he's got a really good matchup against the Wizards.
Good stuff, guys. All right, we're diving into golf next, but Pat Mayo going to warm us up right now with a take on Bubba Watson.
The one guy that I hate him. I never play him, but continues to pop off for me a little bit.
Luke List.
No, well, yeah, that's every week. That's built into the model. But it's actually Bubba. I mean, four straight top 25s coming in. Was firing darts last week. I think he gained like six strokes on approaches. It is absolutely a type of play where I could see him finishing dead last, or I could see him actually being in contention here. So I wouldn't play him in any safe format, but I play Bubba probably like once or twice a year, and I might fit him into a handful of lineups.
Bubba's really strange that he has made 6 of his past 7 cuts at Sawgrass, yet he's never finished better than
Right.
T37, which is just really strange. But he has a great Pete Dye track record. Like, he won at TPC Louisiana for his first win at the Zurich Classic. He's won at Travelers multiple times now, another Pete Dye course at TPC River Highlands. And he won the match play in Austin, which is another Pete Dye course. It's just this one it doesn't necessarily have his number, but I think there's just so much water here that he can't get away with that 1 or 2 bad tee shots that he has every single week.
Yeah, it is really interesting. It's almost hard to do. It's almost hard to make that many cuts and not have a top 25 somewhere in there. Just in terms of like his bell curve, you'd think he would have finished a little bit higher at some point or missed more cuts. So it is very strange. I don't know what the factors are, but as I continue to do research, as I continue to look at it, this range isn't great. It's RCB. It's whatever else you want to plug in. But Bubba was like the one guy that made me scratch my head a little bit and take a closer look at.
What do you make of Bubba, Ben? Because, I mean, with the way that you're talking, you can construct a pretty good Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, Tony Finau, Phil Mickelson, Bubba lineup.
Yeah, that's not going to be duped. Again, I don't want to overstate because what do I know? I don't know how different it's going to play from March to May, but if it does play a little longer, if you can be a little more aggressive, I think that could help someone like Bubba. You're not worried about the upside. It is an anomaly. The course history results don't really make sense. If he's getting in trouble, eventually he's going to front load some of that through the first 36 holes and he's going to get cut. But at the same time, this is a guy that can take advantage, obviously, of the par fives. It's more about, can he avoid some of these blow up holes? 7,300, it gives you enough wiggle room where he is a viable candidate. If he can make the weekend, he could come in 40th, but score the 20th most points. And that's always what we're after. Obviously, he is an elite scorer. Don't think I'm going to get there in safety. I prefer Griot, someone like that, but I'll probably have a couple shares in some big, you got to beat 100,000 people type tournaments.
To the greens we go. The Players' Championship is underway Thursday, which is tomorrow. So DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Matt Jones plus Awesemo.com's Jason Roslin are with us to get us geared up. We're going to, there you are. We're going to chase or fade, guys, Sportsbook edition. So agree or disagree with the following statements.
Ricky Fowler has the best odds in the prop for top former champion at plus 400. Chase or fade, Reed Fowler, not related, that Ricky will have the best finish among former tournament winners. Oh, Matt, excuse me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Me? All right, I'll go first. I'm not in love with this. We're off to a great start. Fowler with the shortest odds of this group, just having to compete with the guys who we've seen win here before. I'm not entirely sold on Ricky for this week, so I'm gonna fade that.
All right, Jason, are you there?
I'm here. I had to find my glasses. I couldn't see anything.
It's okay. I can't see either.
You don't need to see.
We called you Reed for fun. It was a fun joke. That's why we said it, because there was no one in that chair.
It
Just a
was
little
just an
joke we do.
chair, right? So Ricky Fowler, let's talk about him for a second. It's a little too inconsistent for me right now. Obviously, flashed the form at Honda, won earlier at the Waste, but I think I'm going to fade this amongst the former winners. It's just not quite there enough in a big tournament. Hopefully, he finds it before Augusta, but I'm not quite there.
Jeff, chase or fade?
I mean, I want to be the voice of discontent here and make a case for Ricky, but again, it's former top champions. It's not a bunch of scrubs he's going up against. You got to beat Henrik Stenson, Sergio, Tiger. Like, it's just a tough field, and Ricky's been inconsistent with his ball striking. If he gets the putter going, I could definitely see him contend this week, but if I had to choose, I'm going to fade this. There's just too many other big names coming in with good form too, and Ricky's been hit or miss.
All right, guys, there's a prop for best finish by a former Arizona State University golfer. John Rahm leading the way in that group at plus 150 over Phil Mickelson, Paul Casey, and Ches Reavie. So, Matt, chaser fade that Rahm ends up with the best finish for a former Sun Devil. I heard they know how to party.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, I'll chase this. I mean, I think that this is one of the more interesting groups that are being offered this week on the book. I can see the arguments elsewhere, but I just feel like Rahm is very close to putting it all back together and winning another event here pretty soon. So, why not this week?
Jason, partying and golf, apparently it's what they do.
Yeah, I'm actually, can I take Phil Mickelson in this one? Because yeah, I'm sorry. If I took your guy, Jeff, I apologize. But
you didn't take my guy, no.
All right. Here's why I'm picking Phil. This was a late ad for Phil. He wasn't going to play. Then all of a sudden missed the cut last week at the API. Took a trip up I-95 and met some guys and played and liked the setup. Thought he could compete. So I'm going to go Phil Mickelson here. I'm going to take an against the grain play.
Jeff, I have a feeling you think that's crazy.
I mean, I don't think it's crazy. I actually kind of like the idea of taking Phil at bigger odds over John Rahm in this group because Rahm hasn't had much success at TPC Sawgrass either. So there's no way I'm taking him at plus 150. I wouldn't be shocked if Rahm finally figured this course out this year and maybe put up a stronger finish. But the guy I'd be looking at in this group is Paul Casey. I mean, he's been top 25 here the last 2 times he's played. He's been great the whole year. I mean, he probably should have won Pebble Beach, but 2 top 5s his last 3 starts. That's the player I'd be targeting in this group. Phil is a wild card completely. Who knows what he's going to do. I do like him if you're getting bigger odds, but I'd take Paul Casey for sure.
All right, at plus 3,300, Tiger has the second best odds to lead after round 1. So chase or fade, Jason. Woods gets off to a hot start and leads after Thursday.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. Obviously, with his neck strain, we don't know exactly where he is. He's been having trouble getting off to a hot start. So, yeah, I'd like to see him for a round before I go and bet Tiger. I'm going to fade this one. I love Tiger, and I love Tiger this week, but he's been struggling in round 1, so I'm going to fade that based on that.
Jeff, chase or fade, a hot start for Tiger Woods.
I fade this. I mean, first of all, he's got a PM tee time, which at TPC Sawgrass, usually that's going to be the weaker wave the first 2 days because it's going to get a little bit windier in the afternoon. And then second of all, like Jason just mentioned, when's the last time Tiger got off to a good start in a golf tournament? Did he even get off to a good start of the Tour Championship? I don't know. So with him coming off the neck strain, not having played that much this year, it's just like plus 3,300 sounds like an okay number. It really isn't. If you're going to spend that money, it's probably better to find like 3 guys at 100 to 1 and bet them in the AM wave than take a shot on first round leader Tiger. Now, outright Tiger is a different story, but first round leader, no, I'd fade that.
Matt, we gonna have 3 fades or you chasing?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna fade this. We talked about it last week too. Like, there's no way I'm betting a first round leader with the second shortest odds. Like, that's just not how I operate. So I'm good on that.
All right, there are some interesting round 1 head-to-head props, one being Justin Rose versus Justin Thomas, with Thomas favored at minus 106. So chase or fade chase or fade Matt, that Justin Thomas wins the first round battle of the Justins. It's written in this whole show, Matt, that you're reading. So.
Yeah, I'll chase Justin Thomas. Like, over the last 3 years, I have spent a fair amount of money betting him and playing him in DFS, and he hasn't let me down yet. I'm not completely sold on Rose right now after what we saw last week. So yeah, I'll definitely take some Justin Thomas here.
Chasing or fading, Jason?
Oh, see, I'm gonna go the other side on this. So I guess I'm fading. I'm gonna go the Rose side of this, and just because it looks like you're getting plus money on that, and I think both of their games are maybe not as good or as in form as they'd like them to be. We know that Justin Thomas had that weird thing happen on the Classic with his wrist. We know that Justin Rose is battling his iron. So I think this is probably a little bit more of a coin flip. I think I'm going to go the Rose side.
Jeff, you're going to hate this. It's actually your name that says Reed. Matt's name is actually in here. It says Reed, not Jeff. So let's go to you.
Who's out to get me at this show?
I don't
I'm
know.
Gonna find out
I'll ask for you.
Look, I'm gonna chase Justin Thomas here. I mean, I think Jason's got a good point. I mean, whenever you get plus money with the number one player in the world, it's never a bad thing. But I think being this course, it's not a driver-heavy course. I think something like that favors Justin Thomas, who's just been lights out with his irons most of the year. I'm not too worried about the wrist thing. It didn't sound like a big deal. He's played really well in Florida over his career, already a win at the Honda Classic. So I think this is still a pretty fair price for taking Justin Thomas in this matchup.
All right, well, that Reed guy will be with these guys later on the players' predictions. We're going to step aside now with some football in a moment, but first, Adam Levitan's going to reveal who to avoid on tonight's 6-game NBA slate.
Hoop season is winding down, which unfortunately means our NBA chats with Adam Levitan are too. I'm Adam Kaufman. This is Levitan's Fadeaway. Time to find out which guys Levy is out on. Now, Andre Drummond, Levy's 9,400. He's getting ready to face the Heat in Miami. Not always good, but he is consistent in this regard. The big man has 19 straight double-doubles, but he has struggled against the Heat this year. 3 games, average of just 36 DK points. So is that why you're passing?
Yeah, I think that when we think about Andre Drummond, yeah, he's going to be consistent. He's really, really likely to get a double-double, but how often in this spot does he reach the top of his range of outcomes? And I think it's really unlikely when you face the Heat. They play such good defense. They play so slow. And on this 6-game slate, this is by far the worst game environment on the entire slate. So I don't really want too many guys from this game at all. That includes Andre Drummond.
How about Donovan Mitchell? Also on the road in Phoenix, 8,500. He's fresh off a 50-burger, at least if you round up, last night in a loss to the Thunder. Now, only 30 against the Suns earlier this year, so similar to Drummond, a guy who underperformed in this matchup. Why are you vetoing this one?
Yeah, I think the matchup is fine. In fact, I think the matchup is really good for Donovan Mitchell. My concern is that Ricky Rubio is coming back from his hip injury, and we'll see Donovan Mitchell less time on the ball due to that. And also just the way the pricing shakes out tonight. I want to get up to Steph Curry. I want to get up to James Harden, and therefore it's hard to find 8,500 to also pay for Donovan Mitchell. So it's just an awkward spot for him there.
One of my favorite stories of the last week anyway. Steve Kerr said he's so bleeping tired of Draymond Green. Apparently you are too, buddy, because he was above average last time out. What has you fading here?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, Kevin Durant's out tonight. Well, I have to play Draymond Green. We have not seen Draymond Green's role change hardly at all when Kevin Durant has been out or been off the floor this year. His usage rate only rises by 0.7%. Last time Kevin Durant didn't play, Draymond Green played 39 minutes, still only took 4 shots, finished with 21 DK points. So I think the guys that get the boost are Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, DeMarcus Cousins, not Draymond Green.
All right, that's Levitan's Fadeaway, where I am fading the end of the NBA season. Thanks, Levy.
All right, good luck.
Okay, we opened today's program shuffling through all the news flowing in from NFL free agency. Plenty of signings in the last 48 hours. Plus, we had a big trade in the last 48 hours. Jesse, what about all the players not changing squads?
So, DK Live, Steve Buchanan, and Reed Fowler. He's finally here.
Yeah!
Oh, my God. Speaking of being here, we're still here is the name of this new segment. So it's when we look at the fantasy impact for the players who were left behind by these top skill position players via free agency or trade. So basically, the guys who were just standing there like, huh, crap.
Yeah, like OBJ, who left Saquon Barkley behind with the Giants. Feels like the 2018 NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year holds even more responsibility heading into his sophomore season. Steve, does the Beckahm trade to Cleveland help or hurt Saquon Barkley, and why?
Imagine thinking it helped.
Gotta ask the question.
Well, for
fantasy, I know, top-notch script writing. Look, defensively, all teams have to do now is just focus on Barkley. I mean, look, Sterling Shepard is nice and all, but he's not a proven number one. And, to the Giants' credit, though, they do have a very good offensive line. So carries are going to happen. He is going to be able to get those quick checkdowns. Plays will be made, but as a long-term option, you have to really start worrying about Barkley here. I mean, he can't do it all by himself. The Giants are like, they don't want to do anything offensively to improve their team. They just keep, proving that over and over again. And then if you're drafting for next year now, like in a PPR format, like I think you realistically have to take Ezekiel Elliott over Barkley at this juncture. There's just way too many question marks at this point, So it's awful for Barkley. Like, you feel for him. I mean, the kid is just so talented. He's got so much going for him, and he gets on this awful, just what a mess. Absolute mess.
Reed, any chance this helps Saquon, or are you in agreement with Steve?
I don't know. It helps the other teams. Of course, it doesn't help Saquon. I like how Steve wore his giant blue, though. I like that. No, I think there's an honest debate too that, like I was having here with some other guys in the office, that what about James Conner, right? Are we talking about James Conner or someone like Saquon when you're looking at PPR drafts? Yes, he has Jalen Samuel there, but that's, I think, an honest debate that you can have. And to Steve's credit and to Steve's point, like, think about Saquon Barkley and all the 8+ man boxes that he's going to face. I mean, all you have to do is defend. Evan Ingram is a nice idea, but he's not, he's not one of these guys who's going to break the slate. He's not one of these guys who's going to come out there and give you Travis Kelce type numbers. No way. So you can't think that, even though Saquon and Christian McCaffrey does what he did last year or the year before in terms of how many carries he got in that offense, that isn't the same. I think that offense is better than what the Giants are going to be this coming up year. But that gives us some hope that maybe Saquon will be able to, because he is extremely talented. He's got one of the highest elusive rates, like missed first tackle percentage. I mean, absolutely amazing at what he's able to do, but this hurts him.
LOL, Steve, if you liked that script writing, just wait for this. On to Pittsburgh, where 2 Bs are left. Le'Veon Bell to the Jets. He's gone. Antonio Brown, old news. The lone killer B remaining is Ben Roethlisberger. So how do Bell and Brown departures affect Big Ben and his new #1 receiver, Juju? Did you love that, Steve, or did you love that?
I'm actually a little bit nervous who I'm throwing under the bus at this point. So if it's somebody important, I'm sorry. If it's like Glasheen, I don't give a crap.
Also, you're fired. No, I'm just kidding.
Look, I mean, you have to expect teams are going to start double teaming him in coverage, and that's obviously not something you want to hear or consider. Nonetheless, though, he's going to get a ton of volume. You kind of compare it to when DeAndre Hopkins was really like the only man left on the Texans, and he was still producing week in and week out. Now, they're obviously not the same player, but Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, he's just so talented. He can get downfield so quickly. He can make those, ridiculous catches. There's going to be a lot going for him. I like his outlook more than I do with someone, say, Barkley or whatever. But, yeah, it hurts him. They don't have their 2 main guys anymore. I'll be curious to see what the Steelers do, because they do need some help in receiver. So I'll be curious what they do with that. But, yeah, not as bad as Barkley. But, yeah, definitely a ding on his prospect going forward.
Reed, what's going on with Big B?
Yeah. I mean, just look at the raw numbers. I mean, Antonio Brown, 2017, when both of these guys played, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon accounted for almost half of Roethlisberger's pass yards. I mean, Antonio Brown was #1 in receivers. I believe Bell was number 5 or 6 in terms of running backs, receiving yards. So you're going to lose a lot with Roethlisberger, obviously not getting downfield. And how much really last year was Juju's success accounted for with Antonio Brown just getting all of the coverage. This is the first year that we're going to see Juju Smith-Schuster as a true #1. So we're talking about James Washington as someone that we could potentially see moving into that #2 slot. It could be a sneaky good play, but I agree with Steve. This doesn't help as much as much as Saquon, but Juju is a great talent. I mean, we saw last year he was 6 spots higher receiving yards than Antonio Brown. So, I mean, you just have that to go off of. You like his prospect, and he could be one of the higher receivers in next year's PPR season-long drafts. And so I like it a lot more, but it's still going to hurt him quite a bit.
Well, this segment is buzzing right along, isn't it? Let's go to Nick Foles, who is buzzing to Jacksonville. He's a Jaguar. So the floor is yours, Carson Wentz. No worries. It's Wentz's team in Philly. Will he work his way into the top 10 of fantasy quarterbacks in 2019? Mr. Buchanan.
Couldn't Emerson fly out a day later?
No, he couldn't. And he actually didn't fly.
Actually, Emerson wrote these scripts, dude. He wrote them.
Just answer the question. Is Carson Wentz a top 10 quarterback?
Tell your friends. Emerson Lazio wrote this show.
He's driving.
That's terrible. All right, so one thing that, I think the misconception about Wentz is it's not like he was removed. He was, he was not healthy last year. I think a lot of people have this conception that he was benched last year, because when he was healthy, he completed 69% of his passes, over 3,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's more than capable to carry an offense. And honestly, I love the addition of Deshaun Jackson. I think that's going to be such a difference maker for him. I think he kind of got lost in the shuffle with Tampa Bay. He's going to excel with the Eagles. He's that deep threat that they lacked last year. It's easy to forget that Mike Wallace was on that team last year, but he got injured so early that they never really had that deep threat that they wanted to. So Wentz with another weapon, you still got the guys from last year. There's a lot to like about him this year, as long as he can stay healthy. That's the biggest part, and as long as he can hold on to the ball. Because, man, that guy has got butterfingers. He fumbles so many times. But, yeah, there's a lot to like about Wentz moving forward if he stays healthy.
Reed, believer in C. Wentz now that he's got no Mick Foles behind him?
Yeah, imagine that now this is his team, right, that Foles is gone. Yeah, I mean, 2017 he threw 33 touchdowns, but in terms of what he was able to do, and to Steve's point, he did get injured, and that's kind of his game, right? His game is being able to flush out of the pocket when he's on the run, hit guys in stride, and how much of that mentality-wise is he going to stay in the pocket and then stay healthy? Outside of Deshaun Jackson, obviously they re-signed Peters on the line there. They haven't made a huge signing, and look, Jay Ajayi came in 2017 midseason and helped him out quite a bit. Even though the numbers don't say it, right? Just having someone like that in the backfield helps him out quite a bit. Obviously, with Le'Veon Bell, now with the Jets, we were thinking about potentially him going to the Eagles. That does scare me a little bit, but just the top 10 in terms of fantasy points. Last year, you had Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott. Drew Brees was there, obviously, around that in terms of points. And you could see Carson Wentz, especially like Steve mentioned, with a deep threat like Deshaun Jackson, really opening the field up for him. So I think he can sneak in the top 10.
All right, we're going to see where your predictions shake out. Picking over or under in the NBA next, we mentioned Lev Bell a moment ago. Mike Francesa tells us what he thinks of Bell to the Jets.
Don't think that New York's lost out on a diva talent, because now you've got Le'Veon Bell. We talked about this possibility during the season. You hated it at the time. How are you feeling now?
I got to give the Jets credit for at least making a smart deal financially. And I said all along, and I said it on with you, that Bell would never get his money back. I told you that. I said he would never recoup the money he lost. He signed a contract that wasn't anywhere near as good as the contract he had with the Steelers. He didn't have a lot of places to go because running backs don't command a tremendous amount of attention, and they're not going to dominate a market. And he found out that there just weren't enough teams there. And the Jets were smart enough not to get suckered in where there was a phony team that they bid against, or they wound up bidding against themselves. I give them credit for that. And here's what I'll say about it. I can't deny Bell's ability, but what I will say is he made a comment last night. I don't know Bell from a hole in the wall, but he said last night, it's now about being in the green again, meaning in the green uniform. Well, I just hope it's not about the green anymore. And I'm talking about money, and it's back to football, because they need a guy to be a football player. And hopefully with their young, delicate culture, he doesn't come in and ruin it. I'd be leery of that. It's something I would worry about. The Jets made a good deal financially. They retained cap space. They got him for a reasonable buck. So from that standpoint, I cannot deny it. It's not my type of player, but I understand the move.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, he really played his hand wrong. I was going to go there next.
Terrible.
I mean, he got $35 million guaranteed, so he's not crying poor, but that's nowhere near what he thought he was going to get by holding out a year in Pittsburgh. And like you said, he did not recoup that money he lost last year.
He said at the Super Bowl he wouldn't step in New York for under $100 million. How close did he come?
Yeah. In fact, he had tweeted at one point that he wouldn't. $60 million wasn't enough. His max value on this deal is $61.
He said $100 million at the Super Bowl to come to the Jets. $100 million. Okay, how did he do? He wound up leaving all that, which I said he would the whole time. I said he'll never recoup the money he lost, and he never will. But now he's getting paid well. He can learn from his mistakes. Hopefully these guys do. But, talent isn't enough. People have to understand that, especially in football. It's not enough. You have to have a team. You have to have discipline, and you have to have continuity, and you have to be able to be taught and to be led. And that's not, some of these guys just aren't capable of this, and that's why they don't win.
All right, last NBA segment of this program, so let's make it a good one. How could it not be with these two, the Action Network's Matt LaMarca and Alex Barutha of RotoWire?
So roll those over-under graphics, please. Let's go. So will these games go over or under the following totals? It's simple enough. Matt, the Nets at the Thunder has the highest total at 231.5, over or under?
Yeah, I like the over on this game. Both of these teams play at a pretty fast pace. The Nets are 11th in pace, and the Thunder are in the top 3. Both teams are averaging over 103 possessions per game. The Nets are right at 103. And using Bet Labs, I was able to build a system that says that the over has gone 70, 50, and 1 against the spread this season when you're looking at two teams averaging at least 103 possessions per game. So the Nets just barely hit that mark, but I do think that there is some value in targeting the over here. Two teams that play fast obviously is a good thing for scoring in the NBA.
Alex, I'm kind of convinced. Where are you going?
That's a great argument.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I kind of like the under here. I think this over-under makes sense because the last time these two teams played, the combined total was 228. You saw Paul George hit the game winner. This game is in favor of Thunder in terms of pace-wise, and they're at home. But at the same time, both of these teams are good at defense. The Thunder have the fourth, ranked defense in the league in terms of efficiency. The Nets are at 13th, and they kind of play a middle-of-the-road pace, solid pace, like Matt mentioned. But I don't know. I think when two solid defenses meet up like this, I think taking the under can always pay off.
All right, good one in the Western Conference tonight. Just slightly under that total we just discussed. Warriors-Rockets, a total of 230.5. Alex, where are you going on this one?
I like the under on this one too, actually. The Rockets are playing improved defense as of late. And the Warriors without KD, my thought is that they'll have to play a little more of a methodical game, run the offense a little bit more. There's going to be fewer opportunities for KD just to pull up and drain a 17-footer. So all things considered, I do like the Rockets and Warriors going under here.
Matt, did you build something for this game too, over or under?
No models here. I looked at the Warriors numbers with Durant off the court. Their pace, along the lines of what Alex was thinking, their pace does drop pretty significantly. And more importantly, their offensive efficiency craters. They're averaging over 120 points per 100 possessions with Durant on the court. That number falls to about 106 with Durant off the court. Now that's a little bit deflated, I guess, by end of game situations when Durant's off the court and the team's just trying to run the clock out. But still pretty safe to say that removing one of the best players in the league is going to have a pretty drastic offense on your offense. So I think that both of these teams will play at a little bit of a slower than expected pace tonight. I like the under.
All right, Matt, Grizzlies at Hawks, 222, over or under?
Yeah, this one's really interesting because we literally have the fastest pace in the league with the Hawks and the slowest pace team in the league with the Grizzlies. I think that personally this is a little high. I'm going to go with the under here. Both of these teams are bottom 6 teams in terms of offensive efficiency this season. The Grizzlies still play decent defense, and I just think that it's high considering the way that Memphis has played all year. I mean, the Hawks have definitely been an improved team offensively over the second half of the season, but I still think that asking these two teams to combine for over 220 points with the style of basketball that the Grizzlies play is a pretty difficult task.
Alex, over or under?
I'm in agreement here. I like the under. The Grizzlies have held 3 of their past 5 opponents to under 100 points, which is pretty surprising. I mean, you would think that their defensive, they wouldn't be as good on defense with all the personnel that they've lost due to injuries and just all the trades. But yeah, kind of as we alluded to, I mean, it just comes down to neither of these teams are good offenses either. And being on the opposite ends of the spectrum, it should, in terms of pace, it should fall somewhere towards the middle. But yeah, the chances of both of these offenses having above average games seems relatively low. So I definitely feel a lot safer taking the under here.
All right, we got to let you guys go. But before we do, we need your slate approved picks for this 6-game slate. So Alex, you first.
I'm rolling with Steph Curry. I think with Kevin Durant out, Curry's going to be the main option on offense. I think you're going to get great value with him on the price.
Action, Matt?
DeAndre Ayton, too cheap at 6,300, playing more minutes recently and has been a solid, 1.25 fantasy points per minute for most of the year. So I like him at 6,300 versus the Jazz.
Good stuff, guys. Please go enjoy your nights. We'll be right back with our final block of the show. And spoiler alert, it's golf.
Hey, Adam Kaufman here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. 3-game slate in the NHL tonight, so let's take a look at who you should pay up for and who could provide some serious value. We'll start in Toronto. Leafs coming off a brutal loss to the league-leading Lightning. Austin Matthews called the 6-2 drubbing at home a measuring stick game for the team. Now, clearly didn't measure up. Leafs will likely take out their frustration on tonight's opponent, the Blackhawks. Chicago has given up the second most goals in the league. Last time these two met, the Leafs scored 7, a whole touchdown's worth. Matthews is the guy to target here. He's 7,300 on tonight's slate. He will have the better matchup against the Hawks' second line. As for some value, Blake Coleman has been flying under the radar all season when it comes to fantasy. The Devils winger scored his 20th goal of the year Tuesday against the Flames. Gets a favorable matchup against the Oilers tonight. Coleman is seeing increased time on Jersey's top line and first power play unit, so obviously advantages there for you. The Plano, Texas native has led the team with a whopping 20 shots over the last 6 games. He will only cost you $3,900 in salary.
Congrats on making it to the last block of the show.
Thank
or
you.
just turning it, you didn't have a choice, just turning it back on now so that you could see these guys. DK Live's Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Matt Jones, plus Jason Rowson of Awesemo.com.
Good to see the quad box in action here. PGA pin placement is where we wrap things up. So where do you think the following guys finish at the Players' Championship? Start us off with Bryson DeChambeau. Jeff.
I mean, I'm not super high on Bryson this week. He just seems to be sort of lollygagging along right now. I mean, he had his huge hot run at the end of last year, the start of this year. And I mean, he's played DPC Sawgrass once. It was a T37. I'll pencil him in for a T30. I mean, I don't think we're going to see anything spectacular from him. I could be proven very wrong, but I think he's got his eyes set on Augusta personally. I think this is just more of getting set for that. And I think if you have seen the way he's played the last couple tournaments, he's just not quite as sharp. So T30 for me.
Hey, Reed, what's going on? Did I say his last name correctly? Oh, his mic is muted, so we don't know.
Reed is so much better when he's muted.
Yeah.
So much better when he's muted.
Oh, God, I
There
was
he
muted. I
is.
didn't even realize. Yeah, you're close. You're close. But I want to just talk to Jeff about Tevin Coleman going to the – I'm just kidding. Yeah, like I agree. 26th is where I have him as well. You just look at what he's been able to do recently. He's been kind of all over the place with his approach. He lost, I think, 4 strokes at Bay Hill and gaining 4 strokes on the greens. He's going to grind, right? He was the last guy in the range per Kenny Kim. He's there on grounds at the Players at Sawgrass from the Fantasy Golf Degenerates. He's showing us pictures, and he's the last guy in the range. And so DeChambeau will figure something out when he's not. And he actually has some pretty good Pete Dye splits, and he's coming in decently in that regard. Just his finishes here haven't been that well. I'm with Jeff. 26th for me as the highest.
Matt Jones, what do you think of Bryson?
I'm even a little bit lower, honestly. I think that I don't know what's going on with him. Like he hasn't hit 60% of greens in regulation in 2 of his last 3 starts. Like he's had 6 of those 8 rounds in the 70s and just a couple of 69s outside of that. So he's not exactly tearing it up lately. So yeah, I think something's just a little bit off, and we know his in his brain, if it's a little bit off, it can go pretty wrong pretty quickly. So yeah, I'll say like, I don't know, outside the top 40, like 45 maybe for Bryson.
Jason, where does Bryson finish?
Struggles for the weekend. You know, if it's not his irons, it's his putter, and it just seems like he's a little bit out of form. Maybe he needs the weekend off to get ready for Augusta. But yeah, I think he could struggle in the strongest field we're going to see all year. He could struggle to get to the weekend just like he did last week.
All right, Reed, what about Sergio Garcia?
Yeah, I got a top 10 for Serge. I got him at 9th. You just look at this guy, course history-wise. He's number 1 over the last 5 years in strokes gained total. And if you want to just take away course history and go in current form, this guy has 8 top 10s in his last 10 appearances. He's got that DQ when he tore up the sand trap, and he had a little that'll blow up there, a little tantrum. But I mean, he's doing really well. He clearly loves Pete Dye courses. He clearly loves this course, and he's playing really well. Strokes gained approach around the greens. It hits his putting. It's always, when you have guys like Sergio, when you have guys like Fleetwood, it's always their putting. He's been playing a lot better of recent. And man, 8 top 10s in the last 10. I'm going to ride that. I like that top 10. So 9th for Sergio for me.
Matt, he's had success throughout his career at TPC, but recently given him some issues.
Yeah, I see this. I could see a top 10 from him here too. I really have a feeling that he comes out pretty strong and then maybe pulls like a Rory on Sunday and just can't finish it. He's Reed said everything. He's been playing great, except for when he was physically assaulting the golf course in Saudi Arabia. But other than that, he's been playing great and he knows how to get it around here. So yeah, I could see a top 10 from him.
Happens to the best of us. Just kidding, Jason.
Yeah, top 15, maybe top 20. I may not be as high as these other guys are. His putting is gonna hold him back at a tournament like this. I guess if he matches the field in strokes gained putting, he can get into the top 10. But if it's gonna still be cold there, maybe top 20. I think is probably his upside.
Jeff, where do you see this guy finishing?
I mean, pretty much the same as everyone else. I'm going to say maybe just sneaks inside the top 10. I mean, Jason's right, though. His putting's terrible. I mean, he's not confident with his putter right now, so I can't really pencil him in much higher. Ball striking's there. Course history is there. I'll say T9. He sneaks in, but I just don't think he's confident enough around the greens right now to win.
All right, let's move on to Matt Kuchar, finishing where, Matt Jones?
I'll give him a top 25. He just doesn't, I don't know. He's just not doing it for me right now. 7 of his last 12 rounds in the 70s. He had that awful, struggle to break 80 in Mexico the last time that we saw him. Before that, he was playing really well, obviously, and it wouldn't shock anybody if he played, got back to that form. But right now, I think he's more of top 25 to 30 range than he is a top 5 to 10 range.
Kuchar, excuse me. Jason, go ahead, please. Thank you. It's not a fail. I corrected myself.
I'm gonna go with maybe a top 50 here. I just don't see the form of Matt. Although I do think he gets to the weekend, so I just think he ends up probably in the bottom third of this field.
Jeff.
You're just a fail in general, Glasheen. So
yeah, it's been a rough night.
So Matt,
please
Kuchar,
answer.
Look, I mean, Kuchar had his run. He had his superhuman, I'm the best player in the world run. He won a couple tournaments. He contended at some other ones. And now we're seeing some pretty natural regression as to what Matt Kuchar has been the last 3 or 4 years. He's an aging player. He's not going to be the elite ball striker for the entire year. So I think he probably continues on and then probably posts a T35 here. Probably makes the cut, an okay play, but I'm not that high on him for this week.
Reed, prediction for Kuchar, please.
Yeah, Matthew Kuchar. I think I'm higher on this guy than these guys. I think 17th is where I have him, right around inside the top 20. And like Jeff mentioned, he did go on his little heater here with 5 weeks. He had a couple of wins, a couple of finishes in the 20s, a top 5. He's gaining strokes. He's gaining strokes through approach. He lost 20 strokes putting total on the weekend in Mexico. That's really bad. And so in terms of where you like him on DraftKings, could be a decent pivot play, but he's top 12 in strokes gained total on die courses, here at TPC Sawgrass. And he is a die specialist. We always see him, the Kevin Kisners, the Sergio Garcias, Adam Scotts. This Kuchar is one of these guys. Even though he's aging, I think with his around the green game and his putting, if it just normalizes a little bit, not losing 20 in the weekends, I think he's going to have a good weekend.
Reed, I'm really sorry. We have to skip your favorite player, Tony P now. We got 90 seconds here, so we need to get your slate-approved picks. So your lock for the Players' Championship. We're going to start with you, Jeff.
Paul Casey basically just needs to sink some putts and he'll win. And Tony Finau last, by the way.
Oh, shoot. Reed, you're up.
I got Louis Oosthuizen withdrawing because of back injury, and I got Xander Schauffele.
Okay, you guys don't have to go that quickly. Matt, slate approved.
I'm going to go with CH3. I think he's way too cheap on DraftKings right now. 9 of his last 11 starts with at least 75 DraftKings points and 5 of his last 6 in the top 20.
Take us home, Jason.
All right, I got a guy, Patrick Cantlay, has only missed 3 cuts since coming back on tour. Matty knows that this guy's one of my favorites. He's so consistent. 2 top 25s here, and I think he bests that this week for a nice top 5.
You guys are incredible. Wow, good
Lasers.
stuff. So sorry that we
are.
had to skip Tony Finau. That's Reed's favorite player, if people didn't know that. So definitely his number one choice always.
You know, Kuchar should just have an E in his name, not an A.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is just a small
We're going to
small
talk to
thing.
his people about that, but this is The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Brendan. We're out of here for now. You guys should download the DK Live app, though, because you're going to get all the latest up-to-date updates on that thing that you definitely need before those lineups lock. So go download it.
Bye, Jessie.